Okay, great. I think we are on. Well, thank you for all taking the time. It's June. It's a really busy time for our producers, so we appreciate you participating and being here. And I know we've had a lot of workshops over the last year, so we wanted to make sure that we had another one on the agenda here as we're trying to move these temporary regulations to permanent. So this is discussing NAC 557 pertaining to our hemp program. As many of you know, we adopted temporary regulations due to the legislative cycle and not being able to get permanent through with that limitation with our legislative commission. So at this point, we're trying to start the process in adopting those temporary to permanent. But with a lot of the changes that have come underway, we wanted to have another workshop to chat through any comments or concerns. So this pertains to LCP file number R011-21. The temporary regulation that we're referencing that you've seen is LCB file T001-21, and those are the current temporary regulations that are in effect. Being that we're moving this to permanent, it has a new register document. Just as I mentioned, this meeting is being recorded. We will have opportunity for public comment at the beginning and at the end, and we'll go through the changes. How we will go through the changes is talking about the specific changes to the temporary regs that are in effect. So we'll share our screen and talk a little bit about that. And I apologize, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Ashley Jepsen, the Plant Industry Administrator for the Nevada Department of Agriculture, and you have a number of other Department of Agriculture staff on as well. So at this time, we will go ahead and open up for our public comment to get it started, and then we will go into the actual document. Please state your name for the record. If you have your camera on, you can wave at me and I'll call on you. Otherwise, you can raise your hand in that right box. And if you're on the phone, you can hit *6, I believe. And Audrey, correct me if I'm wrong on any of those. And with that, we will open it to public comment. I'm not hearing or seeing anyone at this point in time. So again, there'll be opportunity at the end. And I apologize, I did want to highlight one error in our notice for this meeting. It actually referenced, there was AB 253 went through this last legislative session, allowing us to do these virtual meetings moving forward. And we actually had in there 287, I believe, referenced as the amended statute, but it was actually 241. So just wanted to make that clear, and we'll make sure that that is revised for those of you that were curious about that and have extensive knowledge on the public process laws. So I apologize for the misreference there. All right, so bear with me here for a second as I share my screen so we can look at what changes we have. The document I'm going to share, it's a little bit different than the one we posted because I think it'll be easier to navigate in terms of specifically what we've changed on those temporary regs. So there's a lot of blue and orange, and it's the same file that I shared with LCB. Okay, is that coming across for everyone? Okay, great. So this has the same legislative digest that we had for our temporary reg, kind of going into the meat of what changes occurred to our former NAC. So you do see all the blue here pertaining to all the changes that happened with our temporary reg. But what we've done is we've highlighted in strike through orange on anything that we've stricken, and then we have in green any additions, and that's specific to this meeting. So as you saw from the notice, there are very few changes. What we wanted to make sure we encompassed were two of the primary changes that happened with the release of the final hemp rules. And that was one being they're no longer requiring all the key participant requirements. Now it's just, it could be either one key participant or the applicant. So we did want to reflect that, and we made a couple changes to allow us to do that. We did go ahead and take that approach this last go around, as we did have some flexibility, but just wanted to draw your attention as to why we made that change. So yes, as I mentioned, it'll just be one key participant that has to provide the background check, or the applicant that has to provide the background check. Okay. All right, moving further down, same thing, the applicant, or if applicable, a key participant. So instead of that, each, a key participant. Okay. So we've got that for that background check specific area. I know a lot of folks had concerns over that. So big change. Moving to section 11 here, this section pertained to the disposition, which formerly did not allow for remediation. So that was a substantial change that we saw in those final hemp rules. So you'll see here, we made sure to add that or remediation language to make sure that that's an option. Being that we were referencing CFR before, we still could have taken that approach because it was written in CFR, but just for transparency and to make it perfectly clear, we wanted to add this language and make it apparent to our stakeholders that that's an approach we'd be taking as well. We did strike out here section 3 subpart 3, or sorry, section 11 subpart 3. We struck out, if the practices meet the minimum federal requirements, sampling procedures will include taking a random representative sample of flower material from throughout the plant. We had added that to the temporary regulations in hopes that it might be considered by USDA. It was not. And as you saw from the final rules, the sampling procedure is very specific to the top part of the plant. And it cannot be that blend. And remind me, Audrey, is that 5 to 8 inches?
Sorry, I had to find my mute button. Correct, the top 5 to 8 inches of flower material.
Okay, and moving down here towards the end in section 13, same thing, we've added for that disposal plan that has to be submitted if a crop were to exceed the acceptable limit. We do have that for remediation plans. So we've added remediation to pretty much any area where it referenced disposal to make sure that that's perfectly clear. Okay, I know not extensive changes here. I think that is about it. But in terms of quantity, not a lot, but there are substantial changes in reflection of the federal law. So that's good news. So with that, I did also want to mention that the Nevada State Plan has been approved, which is really exciting. That is available on USDA site. We're also happy to release that, and I believe a release will be coming out in the next couple of days with that information. It's completely public knowledge. We tried to be as flexible as possible in a lot of areas that would allow us to get things out quickly, and also for our sampling approaches. So we certainly encourage any comments, or if things, if you have any ideas in the future for things that might align with the federal requirements, we are all ears, because that will be a living document. So just wanted to mention that as well. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and then we'll open it back up to public comment. Okay.
Ashley, are we on public? It's Liana. How are you? Are we in public comment? Did I misunderstand what you said?
We're entering public comment again
Oh.
now. There was a preliminary public comment. Now we went through the document and now we're entering public comment as well.
So is that a question or a comment?
If you have public comment now, you can provide public comment.
So, you didn't answer me. So I would like to make a comment that the confusion of taking the top of the flower between 5 to 8 inches, shouldn't it be either 5 or 8 inches? Or shouldn't it be 8 period inches instead of, because depending upon who's testing, who is going out and clipping the top of the plant? Is it from your trained, certified hemp flower collectors from NDA? If you could explain that to me, maybe you did and I missed it, but I was a few minutes late.
For the record, Ashley Jepsen, that is actually established in CFR and it's in our state plan. It has to be, and I'm forgetting the terminology that's in CFR, but essentially trained inspectors.
Okay.
It is our state staff are the only ones that are doing the sampling, and they have to go through training and they have to abide by our SOP. The 5 to 8 inches is how the CFR is written, and being that there's different varietals grown, different, sometimes there is fluctuation in the sampling. So that as long as it's within those 5 to 8 inches, the intent is making sure that that flower is there, then it abides by federal expectations, and we want to just meet those minimum. We don't want to make it any harder.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on the comment at this time? You're also more than welcome, and I apologize I didn't mention this at the beginning. If you didn't have a chance, you're having any technical issues, please shoot us an email. Or you can send something in via mail. That's perfectly fine. We've received comments extensively that pathway in the past, so don't be shy in using those resources as well. Okay, it's pretty quiet. I'll say a couple other things, and if anybody has anything else before we close, please take the opportunity to speak. So some of our goals here, we're hoping to hold a hearing, probably the beginning of August is the reality in terms of the public notice that we need to issue. Unless we receive something else in written comment or any other major concerns, our goal will be to do that hearing in August. We do need to get on the legislative commission's their notice, so it takes some time to get there, but these temporary regulations expire as of November 1st. So we are under a tight deadline there, because if we don't have these in place, we don't have an effective state plan, and that would jeopardize our Nevada program. So that's the timeline we're working on. Unless something else majorly changes and we need to make substantial changes, that's what our goals are. So just wanted to keep you guys updated on that.
Hey, Ashley, this is Chris Rusby. I had a quick question real quick. For the sampling, are we still doing like we talked about before, from the top third of the plant is where we will be collecting the samples from?
Audrey, I'll let you expand on what's in your SOP. In the SOP.
Thanks, Ashley. We basically just quoted CFR indicating that we'll be taking from the top portion of the plant and the top 5 to 8 inches. The goal is, if it's flowering like this and we have a couple on the side that are really close to the top, then I'm happy to grab, one of the offshoots, but it must be from that top portion of the plant.
Okay. All right. I guess we can talk about this more next week. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Is there any other public comment at this time? Okay. And Chris will take a look at that too. I thought some of the language had made it a little bit more restrictive on that. Well, let me take a look.
Well, I think, yeah, and I just looked again at the USDA's website. They have that one document that is kind of the sampling parameters type thing. And I do recall when we went through this before that I'd brought that up. And I was just kind of under this understanding that we were going to follow those as well, since other states had incorporated that into their plans and the USDA was putting that out there.
So, oh, sorry, are you done? Okay. For the record, Ashley Jepsen, so just on some of the final language that came out, we thought that was more restrictive, but if they're accepting that and that's what is, you know, if that's what our industry is hoping for, I'm not opposed to looking at that. So I'll have a discussion with Audrey today and we'll fine tune that.
Yeah, and I think all that I'm really looking for is that it not just be the apex top part of the plant, that it be from the top third of the plant or more. You know, if there's a 6-foot plant, that would give a 2-foot kind of area to sample from there.
Okay. Thanks for the input. I appreciate it.
Let's see if I can mute this again.
Okay, any other public comment at this time?
If it's helpful, Ashley, I grabbed the SOP if you'd like me to read that section of where we'd be sampling from.
Yeah, if you want to read it, that sounds good. Go ahead.
Okay, so samples must be extracted from the top portion of the plant per CFR 990. This is a quote from CFR. The samples shall be approximately 5 to 8 inches from the main stem, that includes the leaves and flowers, terminal bud that occurs at the end of the stem, or central cola, cut stem that could develop into a bud, of the flowering top of the plant.
So for the record, Ashley Jepsen, I think that main stem part is what made us assume they weren't going to accept that top third, but I will send an email to USDA and we'll fine tune that.
Follow up.
But I agree, if their guidance says one thing, it would allude to them accepting that. But I know there's been a lot of state plans that they've actually sent back to be revised. So I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing there per federal law and trying to meet your guys' needs as well. So I'll send an email and see what I can get.
And I guess as a valuable note, the USDA has seen our SOP because it was included in the state plan as well.
Any other public comment at this time before we close? All right. Well, with that, again, feel free to...
Actually, it's Leanne. I'm sorry. I just thought of something. You said that USDA saw the plan. So does that mean there's a time or an element of time where they look at it and send it back? Because looking at the plan is different than looking at it, approving it, and sending it back. So could you be more detailed with that, please?
For the record, Ashley Jepsen, the state plan is extensively detailed and has to be approved by USDA and their attorneys as well. So yes, it's gone through an extensive review to ensure it abides by CFR.
Does that mean it was approved and sent back?
Yes, for the record, Ashley Jepsen, it's approved and it's available on USDA's website, and we will be issuing a release with the link as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, with that, I don't hear anyone else. So again, thank you for taking the time. I know June is not ideal for these things. Just trying to make sure we get things done by November 1st. We don't want to be in bad situation there. So thank you for taking the time, and it's 10:21. We'll be closing the meeting, and you will see written meeting minutes posted to the website within the next 10 days. And if you want a copy of the recording, assuming it hopefully all went well, I'm happy to share that as well. So thank you, appreciate it. Good day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.